Hi students, Mr. Martin here. Welcome back to another online tutorial for the Green Shoots Junior Tech ECA. Today we are going to be looking at how to build a program which simulates a magic 8-ball. Now, I don't know if many of you are familiar with what a magic 8-ball is, but this was a very popular toy for children growing up when I was young, maybe around about your age. Now, the toy is a big round ball, and it looks like the 8-ball from the game of pool. And you would shake up the 8-ball and ask it a question, and on the surface of the 8-ball there will be a small hole, and inside this hole the 8-ball will tell you the answer to your question. And these answers are always very cryptic and mystical, and that's what we are going to replicate here. So let's have a look at the code. Okay students, so this is the project that I have already made. You can see that I've titled it Mystic Meo's Magical 8-Ball. I've called the cat Meo because Meo is cat in Vietnamese. Let's have a look at the instructions. So, when we click on the mystical cat to start predicting the future with the magic 8-ball, ask any yes or no question, and Mystic Meo will give you a profound answer. Now, let's have a little look and see how this works. So, as we see, click the magical cat to predict the future. Ask me a question that's yes or no. And here we type the question at the bottom in the text bar, and I will ask Meo, will Mr. Martin give me Junior Tech ECA homework? And I press enter. Reply is hazy. Try again. Let's try another one. Do I like coffee? Ask again later. Okay, so taking a look at this code, we have click the magic cat to predict the future. So let's click the magic cat, Meo. Ask me a yes or no question. And here we have the text box at the bottom for typing in the question. I am currently drinking a cup of coffee, so I'm going to ask Meo, do I like coffee? And see if he knows. Press enter. Cannot predict now. Let's ask him again. Do I like coffee? Better not tell you now. Let's try again. I want him to tell me. Do I like coffee? Ask again later. Okay, well maybe we will give Meo some time to think about whether or not I like coffee. So, as you can see, Meo is giving me different answers to the same question. And Meo would also give different answers to different questions. Now, in this program, I have made it so that we have a total of 5 different answers that Meo will provide. And these answers are generated by random. So as you can see in the top left hand corner, this is a little clue. If you know, because I've made the code and because I decided on the answers, I can know what the answer is going to be depending what number is in this box. So every time we click the cat, this number will change. You see it's now number 3. Ask me a yes or no question. Do I like homework? Press enter. Meo will have a little think. And the answer for number 3 is concentrate and ask again. I click Meo again. The random number switches to number 5. Do I like homework? Ask again later. And if I click, every time I left click onto the cat, you see now it's random number 1, random number 5, random number 3, random number 5, random number 2, random number 1. It's switching between the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 randomly to give a sense of randomness to the answers that are provided. So, let's take a little look at what's actually going on inside the game. And we are going to build this ourselves at the same time. So, as ever, we start with a blank canvas and a blank stage apart from our one sprite, the cat. We need the cat in this example, but as you can see from the example I've provided, there is no body for the cat, there is only a head. So we need to edit this cat sprite a little bit. What we do, we go down to the character, the sprite button, and we go up to paint. And we would hope that the cat would be in here. Okay, here we go. This is the sprite 2. So we have the sprite of the cat and the body. What we need to do from here is to delete the body. And the best way to do this is to select the rubber, the eraser. And if you start bringing the eraser across, you can see that it's pretty big. And if we get close to the cat's head, we might make a mistake and accidentally rub out the cat. So what we're going to do is come down to the bottom right hand corner, and on the furthest right here is the magnifying glass to make things bigger. To make the cat nice and big. That should be enough. And now when we're rubbing out the cat, we have a little bit more accuracy. And we just hold down the left button on the mouse, hold it in and move the mouse around, and this will erase the body of the cat from the sprite. And we just have to be very careful when we get close to the cat's head that we don't accidentally rub out his chin. And you can zoom in as far as you want to do this, and the further you go, the more accurate it will be. Everything inside the circle will be deleted, so you see I'm being very careful not to make the blue line go over the cat's neck too far. Should be good enough. We zoom back out with the left magnifying glass just to check what is left. And you can see in the right hand side here, this will always show you what the sprite is looking like at the moment. And this is how I knew that there were little bits and pieces left, because you can see them just at the bottom here. And we have to get rid of all of these. There you go, you see on the right hand side, this is now deleted. And we have what we need for the sprite cap. So, the next thing that we need is a magical 8-ball. Now, there is no sprite for this inside of Scratch, so we are going to paint one. Go down to the right hand corner, choose a sprite, go up to the paint a sprite, and here we have sprite 2 that we are going to paint. So what we want to do from the toolbar on the left hand side is select the circle option. Then we hold down the left button on the mouse, click it and hold it in, and drag, and you'll see if this is starting to create a circle. There we have one circle, and a magical 8-ball is not purple but it is black, just like in the pool game. So we go to the top left hand corner and change the colour and the fill. Now, one way to create black from pretty much any colour is to take out the brightness. So if we go down to the brightness here, take all of the brightness out of the colour, take all of the saturation out, we're left with a very, very black. Perfect. Now we need a smaller circle inside, which is the 8. If I show you on the inside, this is how a pool ball looks, a big black circle, and then a white circle inside. So we're going to draw another circle in exactly the same way. But this time we want it to be white. So turn the brightness all the way up. Turn the saturation all the way down. And now we have color 0, which is white. Make this to size. And you can see on the right hand side we now have something resembling a pool ball or a magic 8 ball. And that is our magic 8 sprite. Just use the arrow cursor just to make it the right size until we're happy. I'm happy with that for now. I think that looks okay. What we want to do is position the sprite for the 8 ball, select it, and we're going to change the X and Y coordinates to make sure the 8 ball is right in the center of the page. So I'm going to change it to X is 0 and Y is also 0. Now the third character that we need, you can't quite see in here yet, but we see it down here, and when the program is running, is this magical 8 sprite. So let's make this. Again, we are going to paint this one as ourselves. So we're going to choose a sprite, go up to paint. We are going to select the T from the side. We hover over it and you see it says text. Click on the screen and we start to type. We need the number 8. I can't see it because it is still in white. We need to change the color of this 8. Turn the saturation all the way up. And we already have a nice red selected, and I'm happy with that. So that is the colour. We need to make him a little bigger. You can see him starting to appear on the screen at the top. Let's move him into the center. And let's also make him a little bigger. And I'm going to change the font also. To do this, you go back to the T, the text, and at the top here we have, next to the color, we have the type of font. From the drop down menu, I like this marker font. I really like this one. So that's the one I'm going to use. But it has made the 8 a little big. So let's just adjust that. Make him a little smaller so that he fits properly. Tiny bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to place the cat head right on top of the 8. So we've got 3 sprites lined up, one on top of the other. The last thing I'm going to do for now is to create a backdrop. And because it's mystical, I decided I was going to go with the galaxy, so they're floating in space. Okay, and so now on to coding. We take a look at the 8-ball. We see there is no code in the 8-ball. That is just there for decoration and aesthetic, to give it a sense of realism. Moving on to the cat. We have quite a lot of code in the cat, but a lot of this is repeated. So, first of all, the first block of code we have is this one here. And this says that when this sprite is clicked, when you click on the cat, set a variable that I have named random to pick a random number between 1 and 5. So this controls the top left-hand corner here. It picks what random number is going to be selected for the question that you have asked, and this random number will control what answer is provided in the output. Then we're going to get the cat to ask me a yes or no question, and then the cat is going to wait for a response. When we put in the response, the cat is going to hide, and this means we will see the 8 that is underneath the cat. And this is where the broadcast comes in. The cat tells the number 8 that the cat is hiding and the 8 should be shown. Whilst the answer to our question is being generated, I've got 2 sounds playing. First I've got the bubble sound, and the next the magic spell sound. Once these have completed, the program waits 0.25 seconds, which is 1/4 of 1 second, and then it hides the number 8 and shows the cat again. So, before we move on, let's code this little bit in, and so we can understand what is going on as we are learning. So, first block that we need to collect this cat sprite, go to code, go to control or event. What do you think? It is event, because we need to click on the cat. So we're not going to use the when the green flag is clicked, we're not going to use when a button is pressed, we're going to use when this sprite is clicked. Do something. That is the basis. The next thing that we need to do is to create something called a variable. Now, this is new to you. We have not done this in the previous tutorials, but this is good because the whole aim for me in these tutorials is to slowly introduce one or two things that are new each time, so that you understand the full power of Scratch and Python programming. And it means that you don't have to learn a bunch of new things all of the time. You're continuously building on your previous knowledge, which means that you retain and use the things that you've learned in the past, and then add on one or two little new things that make your new program different and expand your knowledge and skills. So, variables. Down the bottom here, under the orange tab, we see there is a box for variables. And we need to use the top bit here to make a variable. Now, a variable is a very, very powerful tool in computer programming. And it does not matter what language you program in and use to code. All programming codes have variables of some sort. And basically, a variable is just something that you want to include in the code, and something that you want to be able to manipulate. And you must define it yourself, and then you can, once it is defined, you are able to manipulate it within the code. So here we need a random number generator to generate what answer is going to be given to any given question. So we're going to make a variable. The new variable name I'm going to give as random hash, and this hash here usually is short for number. And it's very important whenever we make new variables that we give them very appropriate names for their function. Because if you design a piece of code that is really, really, really big, and you have a problem in your code or an error, or you're trying to read through it to understand everything works okay, it can become very, very confusing if your variable names are not explicit and are not very clear, and it can become very confusing. And also it can be extremely confusing for other people who are trying to maybe learn from your code, or to copy it, or to understand it. And collaboration, as I've said before, is extremely important in computer programming. It's very important that everybody helps each other. And this is how everyone learns together, just like any other form of learning. So we're going to leave for all sprites ticked, because this variable is going to be used for all of the sprites in our program. And now you can see that I've created this random number variable here. So, what do we need to do with this? Let's have a look. We need to set the random number variable to, and we're going to use one of the green operators to pick a random number between 1 and 5. If I set the random number to 1, just 1, then this number at the top would always be 1, and the answer provided would always be the answer that is linked to the number 1. And obviously that wouldn't be very fun or be very useful in this program. And that's why we have what is called an operator. All of the green boxes here, all of these green blocks are called operators. And operators are mathematical. So we see our options are a number plus a number, something minus something, something multiplied by something, something divided by something, pick a random something between two numbers. We have this one here, which means more than, this one means less than, this one means equal to, this one is if we want to provide two outputs. So to set the random number to two different things at the same time. The OR is to set the random number to one thing or another thing explicitly. And the not one means it will set the random number to anything that is not the thing that we define. These are extremely important. Computer programming relies extremely heavily on math, as I'm sure some of you will be aware of from the movie that we watched, Hidden Figures, on Friday for Women's International Week. So, moving on to the actual code, we are going to set my variable to 0, and in my variable here, because we've already made one variable, our variable appears in this list, and we're going to set the random number to pick between 5 random answers, and this is in the operators. Pick a random number between 1 and 5. Then we want the cat to ask us a yes or no question and wait, and then hide. So under sensing, we have this block here, ask what's your name and wait. And we're going to put in here, ask me a yes or no question. And then we are going to ask the cat to hide once we've put our question in the text box that will appear, and we press enter, which submits our question, and then the cat is going to hide. And next we need the cat to tell the number 8 to be shown, to play some sounds, to wait, to hide the number 8, and show the cat again. So, as we said before, we need the broadcast block under events to communicate with one sprite and another sprite. So we need broadcast message 1, and we don't have a message input yet, and we're going to define this message as show 8. Then we need the sounds, the bubbles, and the magic spell sound. We go to sounds, we see that the cat at the moment only has the meow, so we want to choose these sounds. There's the bubbles. And we scroll down to M. Here's the magic spell sound. Perfect. So now we've got those added to our cat sprite. We can include them into the code. So we go to the sound, play sound meow, and I want that again. So duplicate that. First I want the bubbles to play, then I want the magic spell to play. Okay. Then we're going to ask the cat to wait 0.25 seconds, hide the 8, and show the cat. So we go to control, take the wait 1 second. 1 second is a bit too long for this program, so we're going to change this to 0.25 seconds. Then we are going to use the events to broadcast the show 8. And then we are going to hide. So we need to change the broadcast. We've already shown the 8. We need to change this broadcast. We need to make a new one called hide 8. We don't want the hide box, we want the show box for the cat. And that's the first block of code complete. When I run this, I click on the cat, ask me a yes or no question. Do I like homework? The random question number 5 answer has been produced. I run it. The 8 is shown. The sounds play. Hides the 8 and shows the cat. So, now we need to move on to the rest of the code. The cat has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new pieces of code that we have to put in. And as I'm sure you can probably already guess, each of these pieces of code rely on the actual answer. So each of these are pretty much identical, apart from the random number that is assigned to it, and the output, what the answer is from the cat. So looking at this piece of code, the first one says, when I receive the message, the broadcast, to hide the 8, number 8, if the random number generated equals 1, then say cannot predict now for 2 seconds. The next one says, when I receive the broadcast message to hide the 8, if the random number generated equals 2, then say better not tell you now for 2 seconds. And again, when I receive the broadcast message to hide 8, if the random number equals 3, then say concentrate and ask again for 2 seconds. And the last two, when I receive the broadcast message to hide 8, if the random number generated equals 4, then say reply hazy, try again for 2 seconds. And when I receive the broadcast message to hide the 8, if the random number equals 5, say ask again later for 2 seconds. And each of these, as I said, controls the answer to whatever question that you put in the text field that is generated. So, let's start making these. Let's start with number 1. In the events, we have the block here which says, when I receive the broadcast message to show the 8, under control, we take an if statement. If something, then. And we need if something equals 1. So we're going to take, under the operators, the green ones, we're going to take the equals one. Where is the equals one? Here it is. If something equals 50, we don't want something to equal 50, we want it to equal 1. And the something we want to equal 1 is our variable. So we go back to our variables, and our variable is listed here because we generated it earlier, and we can drag this into the box here. So now you can see when I receive the broadcast message to show the 8, if the random number equals 1, we're going to need a purple look box to say cannot predict now for 2 seconds. Take the say hello box for 2 seconds, change the text, cannot predict now for 2 seconds. So that's the first one done, as you can see. And all we need to do now is make another 4 of these. As I've shown you in class, the easiest way to do this is to go to the top block, right click on the top block, and left click to duplicate it, and place it here. And move down, right click on this one, duplicate, put it here. So now we have 3. We need 2 more. 1, 2. Perfect. You can see that they're all identical, and that is no good for us. We need to change a little bits and pieces. We've got number 1. If the random number generated is number 1, say cannot predict now for 2 seconds. So we need to change the other boxes. When I receive show 8, if the random number equals 2, say, what's our message for 2? Better not to tell you now. For 2 seconds. If when I receive show 8, if the random number is 3, say concentrate and ask again for 2 seconds. And obviously when you're making this program yourself, you can choose whatever the answers are going to be for each of these. Just make sure that this random number is set to 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, all of the different blocks, and put in whatever messages that you want the answers to be. And you can of course have as many different answers as you want. I've just done 5 here for the sake of time, but you could do this a million times if you wanted. That wouldn't be a problem for Scratch. Okay, so that is all of our cat code done. Perfect. Moving on to the 8 sprite. This is the final piece of code that we need. And this is very simple. All the number 8 does is shows itself when the cat hides, and then hides when the cat shows itself. So when the green flag is clicked, we want to see the cat at the beginning, so we hide the number 8. When I receive the message to hide the 8, hide. When I receive the message to show the 8, show. So we go to our 8 sprite, event, when the green flag is clicked, go to looks, hide, then back to events, when I receive hide 8, you should hide, and we can duplicate that and change one of them to show. When I receive show 8, show, when I receive hide 8, hide. And that is all of our code. It's pretty simple, but very effective. The only thing that we have left is one more sprite, which is a text sprite, to create this text here. Click the magic hat to predict the future. So, we go down as before, choose a sprite, paint, we need the text option, my colour was a nice orange, I've got the marker font already selected, click Mystic Meo to predict the future. I think it looks a bit better with capitals. Go. And in this example, I think it's going to look a bit better. Just place it down here somewhere where it's easy to read and visible. Perfect. So the final thing that we need to do is to name our project. Mystic Meo tutorial. And what we should probably do as well is just name our sprites. Cat. Ball, eight, and text. Save our project, go to File, Save Now, and then we're done. As soon as the project is saved, and that's it for this week. So, next week what we're going to be looking at is a bit more complicated, and it's going to use some of the features of this game. For example, we're going to create a variable, and we are also going to use broadcast again, and we're also going to use some random number generators, and this next one is called Space Rescue. Now, I developed this game in celebration of International Women's Week, and the game is inspired by the movie that we watched at Green Shoots on the Friday about gender and racial equality and diversity, the movie Hidden Figures, where the brilliant African American females Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan and Mary Jackson served as the brains behind one of the greatest operations in known human history. And this was the launch of NASA astronaut John Glenn into orbit. And now, in this game, it's your turn to be the heroes. Basically, a space mission has gone badly wrong, leaving 2 astronauts and an astrodog floating around in space. You use the up, down, left and right arrow keys to rescue the astronauts and the astrodog. and you've got to avoid crashing into these planets. Once you've done that, if your score hits 10 points, you'll be allowed to say that the mission is complete, and you must then try to return safely to Earth to complete the game. Let's have a quick look at how this works. So, when we start the game with the green flag, we use the up, down, left and right keys. And you can see that my points are increasing as I rescue the astronauts. And I scored 12 by crashing into a planet, but when my score hit 10, you can see the Earth appeared in the top in the distance here. And the last thing I would need to try and do is to get back to Earth. Let's see if we can do this in a couple of quick attempts, just to demonstrate. Kind of a hard game, but then space missions are never easy, and I'm not so good apparently at computer games anymore. So we'll leave it there for now, and we'll have a look at this one in more in depth in the tutorial next week. But for today, here we have Mystic Meo, predicting the future. Will we have a junior tech ECA on Wednesday? Mystic Meo says to concentrate and ask again. So I'm going to go away and concentrate and create some more new tutorials for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope that you've learned some new tools and some more knowledge for Scratch. I really hope you're enjoying this tutorial series and that it is very helpful for you in your learning, because it's very difficult for us to cover everything that we need to in just the 1 hour of the lesson, and I want to make sure that your education in IT is as thorough and complete as possible, so that you have all of the knowledge and all of the skills that gives you the confidence to go away and create your own projects, and also to be able to accurately and completely complete the ones that I show you. So that's it for now. I shall see you guys all on Wednesday. Until then, have a great weekend and have fun, be good. Bye.